Hello YouTube world, my name is Serene and welcome to Staying Serene. Today I'm going to be sharing a Serene Saturday on your testimony. Serene Saturdays are when I share faith-based, encouraging and inspirational messages. So let's get right into this Serene Saturday. It might be hard to believe, but this week actually marks a year since Hurricane Dorian struck the Bahamas and changed my life forever. I honestly cannot believe how much things have changed since then. I mean, it's just so incredible to see how my testimony has grown because of Hurricane Dorian and how it has changed my life, how I've learned so many good lessons from it, and just how I found my purpose within Hurricane Dorian. And so I'm really thankful for Hurricane Dorian, even though it was such an awful thing that happened, and it really just shaped my life and it changed my life. You know, if it hadn't been for Hurricane Dorian, this YouTube channel wouldn't be here. So I am grateful and thankful for everything that I learned in it and for my testimony out of Hurricane Dorian. The interesting thing is that before Hurricane Dorian, I felt like I didn't have a testimony. I seriously felt like I had no testimony, nothing to say if someone were to ask me what is my testimony as a Christian. You know, I became a Christian at a very young age. I think I was around 8 or 9 years old when I decided to devote my life to Christ and just ask Him to come into my heart. And it was amazing. But I just felt like my testimony was just so boring. You know, I just came to church. I just came to become a Christian from a church service, you know. It was just, that was just it. It just didn't seem like there was anything special about it. And so I felt like I just didn't have a testimony, because when you look, you could see a lot of people whose testimonies came out of God saving them from a bad past or from some awful sins and things that they committed in their lives. And I just felt like, in comparison to that my testimony was just dull and boring. Like, I just felt I just didn't have a testimony. So I was seriously, had no idea what I was going to say if someone had come up to me and said, what is your testimony? Right? And I actually realized that was a big fat lie, because I actually do have a testimony. So number one is that I have a testimony and you have a testimony. We all have testimonies. Okay, so quickly we like to look at the big things, when God saved your life, and we look at all of these big testimonies about God showing Himself in mighty and miraculous ways. And since we focus so much time on all the big things, we forget the small things. We forget the small blessings in our testimonies. So I just want to encourage you that even right now, in whatever stage you're in right now, you have a testimony. Okay? How do you have a testimony? Well, you have a testimony if you are alive today, okay? If you have life today, you will have a testimony. You have a testimony if you woke up this morning. You know, if God woke you up this morning with life. You know, a lot of people, they can't say that. You have a testimony if you have your sound mind today. There are some people who are struggling in their mind. So having a sound mind, that's a testimony. What else? Let's see. You have food, you have water, you have clothes, you have a roof over your head. Those are all part of your testimony. These are small blessings that we tend to ignore, but they're all a part of our testimony, okay? I want to encourage you. Look at all these small things and don't ignore them, because these are a part of your testimony. You know, even deliverance from sins in your past those are a part of your testimony. You might feel like, those sins, they weren't as big as, someone being saved as a killer or something like that, but the truth is that every sin that we have been saved from, that's part of our testimony. So I just want to encourage you that you have a testimony. Even if you feel that it's small, it is still a testimony. So just want to encourage you, yes, you do have a testimony. Even you have a testimony. Okay? And I just want you to pay attention to all of those small blessings. Those blessings that we take for granted, that we ignore. Pay attention to those, because those are a part of your testimony. Okay, then number 2 is that something is coming. So, after I realized that I did have a testimony, that I should not ignore the small things, I decided to focus on the small blessings in my life. I was just grateful and thankful for them. But what I didn't realize is that something was coming. And that something was Hurricane Dorian. And to me, Hurricane Dorian was so big. In fact, I actually still can't believe, even though it's been a year ago, that actually happened to me, because it's just mind-boggling how my testimony came out of Hurricane Dorian and the experience that I went through, right? And so that thing's pretty big. That's a big testimony. And so I just want to encourage you that if you feel like you've never had like a life-changing circumstance or anything that's really big that happened to you, I just want to encourage you that something big is going to happen. Something is coming. Something is on its way. Okay? Because when you think about it, all of us are going to experience things in our lives. All of us are going to go through something, some adversity, some problem, some challenge, some issue. We're all going to go through it. Okay, it's just a part of life. We are going to have to go through something that is big, and that thing is going to be a part of our testimony. That thing is just going to add to the testimony that we have already have based on the small things that we mentioned earlier. So I just want to encourage you that if you feel like, nothing big has happened in your life, there's no big testimony, and that, you never had your life change in an amazing way, I just want to encourage you that something is on its way. You may not see it now, you may not see it next year, but I want to encourage you that at least one time in your life, you're going to see a big miracle or something big happen in your life that is going to add to your testimony. So I just want to remind you, number 2, something is coming. And also, right now, something might have already been here for you. A lot of people might see COVID-19 as part of their testimony, as part of their story. So I just want to remind you, something is on its way. Okay, number 3. Don't be afraid to share your testimony, whether it's small or big. And I know this is a difficult one. I've experienced it myself. Sharing your testimony, it takes guts to share your testimony. It takes guts to share something that is so personal and something that taught you so much to others. But I want to encourage you that the results, it's all worth it. So I just want to encourage you that you need to share your testimony. Okay, you need to share it. I know that it's scary, but you need to share your testimony because you are the only one who can tell your testimony. No one else can tell it for you, and no one else can tell it like you. Okay, so someone needs to hear your specific testimony. Okay, and I said whether small or big. So you might think that your testimony is small, but who knows? That small testimony might help someone. That small testimony might encourage someone. So a small testimony that I have is that in preparation for the fall 2020 semester at my university, I wanted to get into this class, right? And I really wanted to get in, but I ended up missing the door of opportunity and the class ended up closing, right? And I was pretty disappointed. So you know what? I prayed. I asked God that it was in His will that He would let me get into this class. And so I prayed and I asked Him to let me get into this class. And you know what happened? God opened the door. And the class actually was made bigger to allow more students into it, and I was able to get into the class. And that is not as big as, a loss in your life or just something that's completely life-changing, but that is still a part of my testimony. And I know that someone could probably be encouraged by the fact that God opened the door to allow something like that to come into my life so that I could get into the class that I wanted to. God cares about the small and the big. And so I just want to encourage you that testimony, the size doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's big or small because it's still your testimony. It is still uniquely yours and you still need to share it. Okay, you never know who needed to hear that from you. You never know who is going to be impacted by what you have to say. You never know how you're going to help someone by your testimony. And so I just want to encourage you, even though it might seem scary, that you need to share your testimony with others because you never know how someone might be impacted and encouraged and helped by your specific testimony. Sometimes we forget that testimonies are individual. No one else can tell your testimony like you. Okay, it is yours, no one else. So that is number 3, that you need to share your testimony even if you're afraid and regardless of its size. So those are the 3 things I want you to remember about your testimony. I want you to remember that you do have a testimony if you look at the small blessings in your life. I want you to remember that number 2, that something is coming, something is on its way. And number 3 is to share your testimony regardless of size and even if you are afraid. So I really hope that this message really encouraged you, that it really inspired you, and that you are encouraged that you do have a testimony and it's worth being shared. On my Instagram account, @StayingSerene, I have my very own original quotes that are sure to encourage and inspire, so please don't forget to check it out. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Okay, bye!